All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Two Track Mind podcast.
Yo. What's up?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everyone.
All right. So a little bit of a short turn since the last podcast. We did that one on what was that, Thursday?
That was Thursday or Wednesday.
It was Wednesday?
Yeah, well, I mean,
okay,
we're
I released it on
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Released on Thursday. Yeah. Quick turnaround here, guys.
Quick turnaround, but a lot of stuff happened over the weekend. It was probably one of the first really busy track weekends in Ontario.
Yeah.
What'd you get up to?
Well, I was at DDT both days. First day with Razor Motorsports. I was.
You just sleep in the bathroom overnight?
No. I did some instructing there, and then afterwards, lucky for me, DDT is 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
Could be faster if you're on the 407. But
do you even have a transponder?
I do. Of course I do.
That's why you take it all the time.
You have to have one. Or the $7 admin fee is ridiculous. If you take one exit, right? The 350 is crazy.
Yeah, but then you always push me to take it when you're driving with me.
Yeah, well, you don't have a transponder?
No, that's why I don't like taking it.
This
guy's like, oh, come on, please take the 407. Let's go. 20 minutes. You'll save 20 minutes.
Anyways. But yeah, I was with Razor Motorsports doing some coaching and it's driving there. It was fun. Patrick Alex was there, Sean, Tim. Really good time.
All the regular guys.
Yeah, I got to drive an S2000, a very stock one.
AP1?
AP1 Sean's. And his is stock.
I keep forgetting he has that car.
His is stock. Yeah, of course. He has so many cars. But that one was stock. The reviews coming out. I drove Joshua Chan's GTI. That was pretty much stock. Just tires, pads, fluids, both cars. And of course my own BRZ was. And
you like the
also,
Mark 8?
Mark 8. I also drove Patrick's supercharged BRZ. So on
you
my
guys
channel,
filmed that?
Yeah, we filmed it finally. So on the channel, we have a mildly prepped Gen 1. We have a very well prepped Gen 1. We have a mildly prepped Gen 2, which was mine, or stockish one. Then we had a Luke's GR86 time attack build on the channel. Then we have
probably the most extreme.
Yeah, of the Gen 2s. Then we had Patrick's supercharged one.
Yep.
And the final boss is Jason's turbo K-swap BMW DCT FRS one.
I was doing a little bit of planning in my mind yesterday.
Yeah.
Last night late at night, when your brain just can't sleep on what I need to do, and was looking at Ford 8.8 rear ends and how to retrofit that, because once they get the car running, that'd be great, but the first thing that's gonna break is the rear axles.
Yeah.
And having a custom solution for that is going to be pretty important, bud.
Yeah, if we're going BMW transmission and all these things, you might as well put some beefy back there to handle the power. Yeah, you don't want to be constantly switching out axles or the diff exploding or blowing up, or not have a not well-tuned diff for the power that you're going to be making.
Yeah, to the point where I think, at least at the beginning, I'm going to put a temperature probe in there to see how hot it's getting.
Yeah.
Because I do think I definitely put my lash on the gear and pinion to be a little bit tight, so I'm a little bit worried that it's gonna heat up pretty fast.
Yeah,
but
and it won't lubricate and it'll explode.
Yeah, among many other things. So how'd the cars perform? You had a pretty good lineup of all these different modification levels, right?
Honestly, Mark 8 GTI is the most surprising, because it's just we put down 37 high 37s, low 38s all day on 8009s with 1.2 degrees of camber in the front. The Mark 8 is incredible. Yeah. It is so,
and that's a manual transmission too. It's not even the
it was DSG. A manual. Yes, a video coming out on that soon, but you do have to drive around a few things. You just have to. You have to be really patient. You have to set the suspension because it's pretty soft, as you know. You have to set the suspension, load it up, almost on
the slow corners, right?
Slow corners, and you have to be just really patient. Just lean on the diff to claw you out.
Yeah.
But on the high speed stuff, it's surprisingly balanced and settled.
Well, it's because you
take curbs.
You just at DDT, let's say 6-7. It's going to be really good through that, because it just, once the suspension settles, right? Whether you're on the bump stops or not, whatever, it just takes a set. Yeah, just lay on the power.
The differential is just crazy good. It's crazy good in the Mark 8. Just puts down the power, claws you out, and not in a way that's spinning the tires all the time, destroying, chunking the tires. No, not like that. It actually pushes you out of the corners, which is very, very surprising for a GTI. It's I wouldn't say that thing is not a track car that comes to mind. But it's more of a daily sort of thing that is
I keep talking about it.
It's so capable. It's so crazy. for reference, Gen 2 PRZs with like, 200 tread wear tires, good drivers, like maybe like 4 degrees of alignment, like aggressively set up. Yesterday, people were doing 36s, right?
Yeah.
I did a 37.2 yesterday in mine, but this Mark 8 GTI is like a second off with 8009s, not even set up properly. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
I think, well, with a track like DDT, right, it's basically, it's a lot of lateral transitions, right? Which makes for a stock car, that's usually where people struggle a little bit if you're on stickier tires. But with a driver that has enough experience on how to prioritize the corners, right, and knowing where you need to sacrifice on entries just to get the car settled so that you can power out, the GTI is going to have a pretty good advantage because, and I think with most turbo cars at DDT, because there's a lot of stop and go action. Like, yes, it's a technical track. Momentum cars can do really well there because they can transition quickly. But I think one of the keys, like, to outperform there is that you need good corner exit out of the slow corners, and then the GTI is going to do all that with just having a turbo.
Yeah,
it's
just way too easy to overdrive a car like that at a track like that. You just need to like
be patient.
Be patient.
Did the tires last a full lap, or do you find that like, the telltale sign is like, when you have a lap timer in the car, like the Garmin, and it tells you what the optimal is. Like whenever I was driving the Mark 6, it had impossible optimal laps because it was stitched together different laps where I prioritized different corners in terms of using my tire there, and then knowing that I wouldn't have the tire later on the lap, right?
Yeah, the car's different like that. Beginning of the lap to end of the lap.
Yeah.
I did 5 laps in the Mark 8. Like I think 8009, it does handle heat decently well. Like it's not like a CRS, I think, handles heat worse. Of course, it's a better performing tire overall.
Sure.
But I think the performance drop of 809 is a little bit less steep as with CRS.
Yeah.
So it was okay. Like definitely a noticeable drop, but nothing like crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's move on to CSCS. You were there yesterday.
That's right.
What were the major takeaways? What did you observe in the field?
So I went there not signed up. My job there was to basically support one of the drivers, help him out. He's pro driver, Michael DeMio, raced in Porsche Cup, GT3 champ, many GT3 podiums and race wins. Also drove like an NSX race car with Compass Racing. Did a bunch of IMSA stuff. Really, really amazing guy. Has coached me before as well. He was driving GT3 RS. So
his own car or shop car?
Friend of shop's car. Yeah. Sure, shop's friend's car. Who also knows Michael.
Yeah.
Michael's coached him before as well. So just like getting him set up, keeping him on schedule, like hanging out with him, filming some video with him, setting up some GoPros, putting on his harnesses, stuff like that, just hanging out with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, he did a ridiculous time, 28.5, I believe, officially on it. Fastest car of the day, faster than, I think they called the Dark Knight, or like the sister car to Black Storm. So like the very high
the
horsepower.
Unlimited class cars were not the fastest.
Yeah, he crushed it. And that car belongs in a sports car GT, but they just bumped him up to Unlimited because he's a pro.
Oh, is that why? I was kind of curious as to why because Velocio also had a 3RS out and it was a different class.
Yeah. So I mean, the RS that he drove was more stock. It doesn't have the alignment knuckles. It's just a stock RS with whatever alignment we could have done, and that's it. It's just a stock RS. But but bumped him up because people were like, "Oh, he's a pro. Like, can we put him to Unlimited?" And we're okay with that. Just put him to Unlimited. It's okay. It's just we know he's.
Who's we?
Monster,
who's we?
Like, we know Michael DeMio is like he's gonna crush everyone in any car. But I have the onboard footage. I'm gonna be editing that. It's absolutely crazy. Like just absolutely nuts.
So how would you describe it? Like briefly, was just loose, driving a loose.
The thing is, he has so little steering input. And when I talk to him about it, he's just like, "Yeah, I just steer with the brake and the gas. It's a rear engine car." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, you don't really have to turn the car." I'm like, "Okay." And then he's just like, the curbs, like, I don't know. He takes them differently. There's like, it's just the aggression and the commitment. And those little rumble strips at DDT?
Yeah.
That we don't really take them.
Yeah.
He uses like every inch of the track.
Oh,
like,
you mean like the final corner?
final corner,
Yeah.
and then also also like the even exiting like turn 2, 3, 4. You come up into
Oh, yeah.
4. There's
Yeah.
that little rumble strip.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's like 0 steering input, just like is
Taking
rumble
it
strip,
all.
rumble strip, rumble strip, rumble strip, rumble strip, and the same thing. The next corner, turn 5, downhill trail braking corner, very little steering input, rumble strip on the outside. And funny thing, I was watching him. I'm like, dude, why are you braking into like after 5? We don't usually brake. We just kind of like come off the throttle and like kind of balance the car and then go full throttle.
Yeah.
He's like he brakes pretty aggressively there. Actually, he's like, oh yeah, that just helps me get the car rotated, and then I could just like super full throttle. I'm like, just these little like things that I'm just like,
Yeah.
We would never even begin to understand.
But it's also kind of just speaks to having the seat time in a car layout like that, right? Like how much time have we put into rear engine, rear drive cars?
Yeah, that's
especially
true.
of that level, right?
Yeah,
because I think that kind of likens it to like our version of like those kind of what's it called? Shortcuts, speed secrets, quote unquote, right? That's a branded term, but we'll use it. It's like when we discovered in turn 3. You know, everyone's like, oh, second gear, third gear. Do we take a geometric apex or should we keep it tight? And then we realized that, oh, no, you know what? Throw it in second gear, like get on the gas to rotate the car, keep it super tight, short shift it, and then blast it up the hill as close to the right as you can. That took some time for everyone to collectively figure out, okay, yeah, this is the way to do it in this car.
Yeah, people with Gen 1s were like, that's the limit, 145.
Yeah, so
you cannot go faster than 145 with the tire tech at the time. Now
right.
people are in like 36s.
So like that's kind of the interesting thing where it's basically like when you ask them, okay, what's the rationale? It's almost always, oh, it helps me get to wide open throttle sooner. Right? That's like at the end of the day, 99.9% of the time is basically like how much longer can you be at wide open throttle? And basically on corner exit, how much sooner can you be on corner throttle? And it's like whatever trickery you can throw at the car to make that happen, it usually works out in your favor.
Yeah. Just some comments from him. I'm going to be editing the YouTube video. It'll be on my channel, but he said it's 90% of a cup car. Yeah, he said it feels like 90% of a cup car. And he's like, he was like sore and like really tired after driving it. And mind you, he only did about 8 laps. Yeah. He's like, give me some more time in it and without fear of crashing the car. Because he was already a second ahead of every single one in the field.
Yeah, so you think it's like maybe like a 26?
He's like, well, here's the thing. He's already done a 27 with a 991.2 GT3 RS.
Okay, yeah, so, definitely then.
So he's like, yeah, well, at least a second, but I don't want the pressure of a competition, and just like give me open track, give me some time to have some fun with it. The owner has got to be there, and they got to give me the okay to send it. Yeah. He didn't want to bend wheels too much, so he says, right? Man. So
DDT, man.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe like 27 is possible, but just another level of feel in the car. Yeah, just you being using brakes and throttle to just steer the car, and it's like very little steering, but it's just very, very interesting and nice to watch.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be on the lookout for that video. The other thing I noticed yesterday when just looking at live timing, Super Street is just basically all G82, G80. Yeah, just kind of like what we talked about last week. Yeah, like that's kind of like the X-Drive G80, G82 is the popular choice for the mid-upper levels of competition now. Yeah. So it's kind of cool.
Conditions weren't optimal, and they were doing like 31s, 32s.
Yeah, so I mean, with a little bit more development, like 30 flat seems pretty approachable. Do you think you can get into the 29s?
Well, Brandon's car has like motons, but it is full weight. It does have a tune. That car, I think, makes like 700, but he's on like the track map, which is 600. So maybe like 100 horsepower more than stock. Yep. He hasn't been there for years. Right? He hasn't been there in a very long time. He's trying to like, talk him through which curbs smash and stuff like that. But yeah, he found so much pace. I think he did ultimately like a low, like 32 flat. Yep. Yeah, I think he can find more time for sure. And then Leo was really disappointed. One thing is he apparently his car went into limp mode for whatever reason.
Yeah, I saw the video.
Yeah.
Did they figure it out?
No. Well, they're going to probably figure it out today. But it's sad that he went into limp mode. But he was in the 32s as well. So definitely with a little bit more power in that car, some weight reduction, and more optimal day. Absolutely, yeah. I think it could probably be in the 30s. Probably 29 is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, like, with CSCS, I know they are okay with 2 off and still counting the time. So, like, that's probably the fastest lap time that people can pull off, because other competitions like OTA wouldn't let you do that.
Yeah.
And I've seen videos of, like, people like Michael Gardner just on turn 1, they just basically have half the car off the track.
Yeah, they're just on the grass, right? Like everyone is on the grass. You see where it's
if
down.
they've filled the dirt pit,
Yeah,
and it's packed enough, then it's safe enough to do it. But if everyone's doing it, then it's just gonna be a crater and you're gonna get hooked.
Yeah.
So that's a funny thing. Well, that was a lengthy intro, but I think it was good to get a little bit of flavor of what's been happening at the beginning of the season here. Pretty exciting to see everybody still getting out, and more stuff to come, like OTAs next weekend.
This coming weekend
at Motorsport GP. That'll be cool to see how people do. I mean, what did Scott say? There's like 20 students, more than 20 students.
Yeah. A lot of people come in now. Yeah.
So that's.
I brought 6 of them, so
yeah,
it's gonna be a good time.
You getting commission?
Definitely not. I get free lunch, I think. Yeah, free lunch, and I have to instruct.
Yeah, good trade.
Yeah.
All right, so main content for today in the drivers meeting, I want to just quickly touch on the M2CS G87, right? So we just saw some photos come through of this car. What are your initial thoughts?
Okay, so I think it looks pretty good, except the rear. Honestly, like the rear looks like a billboard. You know, it's like so flat and boxy and square.
Yeah,
I kind of see what they're trying to do. Like they want to maybe look like a CSL sort of style rear trunk. Yeah, but the M4 CSL, I think that trunk looks pretty good. That trunk looks really good.
Are they released it at the same time?
No. That car's been out for a long time. Okay. M4 CSL. Yeah. But the M2CS trunk, I really don't like it. It's like a billboard.
It reminds me of the Rocket Bunny V2 for the first gen 86.
Yeah.
It had the same thing. It also reminds me, like, you remember, like, growing up, there's like, it's not Power Rangers. Or maybe it was Power Rangers, but there's like these like insectoid.
Okay.
And they were like Hercules beetle, you know, like the horns. And it kind of reminds me of that, like the face.
Yeah, it's the grill, right?
It looks like an insect. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's too. The thing is, I think cars look too futuristic right now. We're like way ahead, but we're just not there yet. You know
it's not even futuristic. It just looks like to me, it looks like a cheap aftermarket body kit. That's kind of what it looks like. Did they release any, like, what the performance modifications are? Like, I know
it has more power. It has more power.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Has like little, like, CS bits badging just to make it cooler. Of course, the trunk, the grills are different. Maybe like some carbon fiber bits here and there. Yeah. But I mean, it's not like significantly lighter. It's not like it has more power. But yeah, I'm more excited about them dropping the M2 competition X
But isn't that just going to be... Oh, has that been confirmed?
So I believe it's been confirmed. I've heard a lot about it. I read a lot about it.
Yeah.
I find it kind of interesting because the M2 and the M4, in terms of weight, even the M3, and wheelbase and track width, they're not that far off. Like, they're not like really drastically different. And so it's interesting because BMW is giving very many options of a very similar product. I think part of it's just like look, styling. They're just like packaging it a little bit different, but ultimately I think the cars are very, very similar. Yeah.
That's if they offer xDrive in the M2C, that puts the CS in a really weird position because I think the hardcore track folks are going to opt for the xDrive. To the point where you really think they're gonna give xDrive to the M2? I'm not sure.
Maybe we'll see.
Has an M2 ever had xDrive?
No, but no M4 has that xDrive either until this generation, right? Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. I don't know. BMW's kind of doing some silly things here and there. Some things I agree with, some things not. But we'll just kind of see how it develops and kind of trust what the engineers are doing. But for me, I think like from a driver's enjoyment point of view, I think all the best cars have been made already, you know? Yeah. Like in general, across the board, you know?
Okay.
But performance wise, yeah, all the new stuff is just, if we're talking strictly performance lap times, like just monsters that just eat up tarmac. Yeah. They're getting crazier and crazier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, let's move on to our next topic, HPD corner. This one I think is going to be a little bit more towards like intermediate and advanced in terms of where it might be most helpful for drivers. So I want to talk about gear selection for cornering. Okay. And you know, when you're tracking, let's say like, you know, when you first get started, DDT as an example, we always tell new students just stick to third gear for most cars. Like you can basically do a pretty good lap with the entire track just in third gear. Okay. Then obviously they're going to want to start experimenting and go second, third, fourth. That's kind of like usually the gear set for, let's say, an FRS going through DDT. But then there's going to be corners like just as we discussed. Let's say turn 3, turn 10, I think, the bottom of the hill hairpin, where there's a choice to be made. Do you stick it and stay in third, or do you go down to second? And as someone who has driven many different cars at similar tracks, right? I think like one of the things that I've kind of heard you talk through in your driving videos is like, oh, is this third gear? Is this fourth gear? Let me try different gears, right? In the McLaren 5B at Motorsport, you were trying different gears, right? So let me just pause there and just get your like early thoughts on how you think about gear selection for different corners.
So personally, let's talk just me first. I always try to go to the lowest gear as I can.
Okay.
A lot of people tell me like I'm overshifting, I'm doing, you know, too much, especially like Shannonville TDT. Like for example, I use 2, 3, 4 for sure at TDT. Hairpins I'll take second, like third I'll take, fourth I'll take, the back hairpin I'll take second, and even going into, anyways, yes, I'll take second as much as I can. And the reason isn't necessarily like to really get more push or torque out of corners. It's, as you said before, like I want to get the car rotated, right? And so if I can point the car in the right direction, then I can just be so confident in committing to throttle.
Sure.
Right? Even those hairpins, like get the car rotated, boom, you're like rocket shitting out of the corners, right? So it also
rocket shitting out of the
rocket shipping out of corners. So it just it depends how comfortable I am with the car as well. If I'm not super comfortable with it, then I'll just try to stay in one gear as much as I can.
Sure.
And like another consideration is like how much power does the car have? Like, is it putting down the power? Usually, if it's a high horsepower car, I'll find an area on the track where I'm just gonna really mat it and see if it can put down the power.
Yeah.
If it lays down 11s, it lays down 11s, and I know. But if not, I will of course use as much of the power band as I can.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is, how confident are you with the shifter, with the pedals, with all that, right? Because heel toe, like I do double downshifts all the time. How much mechanical sympathy do you have, number one? And number two, how good is your heel toe?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You need to rev match quickly. You don't want to unsettle the car. So those are all skills that people should work on. And if a student wants to take, you know, second and fourth and they're really comfortable in one gear, yeah, that's a skill that they need to learn. Right?
Yeah.
Like they need to learn how to upshift. They need to learn how to heel toe.
So let's talk
match, whatever.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the physics of what's actually going on, right? Why is it that we are able to get better turn in and rotation in a lower gear? Okay, let's use, for example, turn 3 DDT. Okay, you're in an 86. Why is second gear going to get you better rotation than third gear? Because I think that's like a weird thing for people to think about. It's like, oh, if my steering input and throttle input is exactly the same, it's just the gearing. Like, what's actually happening?
So when you downshift, right, you're essentially doing a little bit of engine braking as well.
Yeah.
So if you think about the load transfer in a car, what's happening if it's slow, if it's engine braking, you're loading the front wheels just a little bit more. So the balance of the car is a little bit different. And then if the front is loading up more with the weight transfer and the downshift, the rear is lighter. So with that same steering input, with that same amount of I guess G force, you're getting more yaw in the rear end because the front is more gripped.
Yep.
And the rear is light.
Yep.
So you can really use that to change the balance of the car. And then just like once you're pointed in the right direction, you can like very confident to go fast.
Yeah. So
especially if the car is very understeery, like you can actually use that to your advantage to not put so much heat through the front tires and scrub the front tires so much, but rather have the rear end come around to point the car in the right direction.
Yeah. So the engine braking is definitely going to help with the turn-in response for sure. And I think the other thing is when you're mid-corner, because you're in a lower gear, you have more torque. You can have more modulation and acceleration.
Yeah.
Let's say if it's like a BMW, right? Like you get on the throttle, it's going to give you even more rotation, right? Even in the 86 turn 3, you can get more rotation, even with its limited torque. That's why I think a lot of us use second gear. There's like even mid-corner, you can get it to rotate even more.
Yeah.
So engine braking, unloading the rears, more torque for modulation.
Yeah, so throttle steer
in mid corner.
Yeah.
And the other thing that also happens is if let's say you have a clutch type LSD and you have more torque, what kind of impact can we expect in that situation?
So if you have a clutch based LSD, basically there's ramps built into this to the clutch pack. And as you apply more throttle, you get more locking. It pushes all the clutch packs together, right? And so it's not more throttle, it's actually more torque, right? The more torque going through the system squeezes those clutch plates together, giving you more lock, right? So which will also mean that you're getting more, essentially means that you're getting more power sent to that outside wheel to really like push you out of the corner.
Yeah. So these are, I would say, like the three biggest things that are contributing to what it feels like sharper and more. You feel like you're in more control and you can lay down power on the exit. Now, what are the merits of staying in the higher gear through the corner, right?
So, staying in a higher gear, like Joshua Chan does it all the time. He doesn't want to think so much. He just wants to focus on carrying speed, right? So I think you have to really master keeping in one gear. And I think the evolution of that is like starting to add in some shifts. Yeah. Because I think if we talk about an optimal lap, yes, it does take time to shift. But I think you can easily make that up being able to correct the line with like shifting. It's not just about like more torque, but all the things that we mentioned before. You got to really use it to your advantage. But keeping it in one gear, like you can focus on carrying more speed, you can focus more on your braking. But like I said, you have to work on like the heel toe, you have to work on the downshifting, the rev matching, all those things, throttle steer, so on and so forth. There's many things. Like if you're not confident with heel toe, if you're not good with threshold braking, if you're not good with throttle steer or having the rear come out a little bit, then those are all skills that need to be developed for it to all come together.
Yeah. And I think this is crucially when people think about now automatic transmissions being the preferred transmission for chasing time on track. This is probably like precisely why, right? As you're saying, like with, let's say, the lower gear is the optimal gear in optimal conditions. The danger of trying to do that on a super hot lap, like, it's your final lap in a time attack session or something like that, is it's very easy to either overslow or underslow. Especially, let's say you have in your manual transmission car, you're downshifting twice, right? 4 to 2 or something like that. Getting that perfect and getting a good sense of like when you're doing that heel toe, do you still have a good sense of brake modulation as you're holding that brake, getting the car slow down, or are you overslowing the car? And if you overslow the car or underslow the car and you plow and you understeer, that basically like completely negates what you could have had and staying like, third gear or something like that. Just really focus on threshold braking, get the car off the brake at the perfect time so that you have the grip to get that turn and hit the apex and you get back on throttle as soon as possible. I think the other benefit of staying in the higher gear is like, let's think about, again, we keep coming back to 86 because this is what I know, this is what you know very well as well. We turn off traction control on the 86 when you're at track. very different experience when you do that in 86 versus something like an M2, right? Like turning off traction control on the 86 is not really about letting the wheel spin as opposed to more preventing the traction control system, which is not motorsport grade, from intervening. Laying on the throttle, like you're never going to use first gear, but in second gear, it never really gets you in trouble, right? Whereas in a high power car, you put it to the floor, it can get you in trouble, right? And so it's in a sense, it's almost like, you know, we can more easily deal with the lower gear in a lower power car and help with that rotation, but you really have to think twice about whether that's going to be beneficial in a higher power car, because that being in that higher gear is kind of like having a version of traction control in a sense where you're limiting your throttle, you're limiting your torque, and it could be pretty closely matched in that gear to just be at that limit where maybe you're slipping a little bit or it prevents you from slipping, but it's pretty optimal for the amount of grip that you have. Versus now, if you go down to a lower gear and you have traction control off, you're putting a lot more work on you and your focus to try and keep that tire 1-to-1 with the grip that you have, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, learning, I think putting on a less sticky tire is probably a good idea, right? Because, you know, on sticky 200 tread wear on a Gen 2, like you could just basically floor it like all the time, right? You don't have to have a lot of throttle discipline. Kind of just like roll it on, just, you know. But any high horsepower car, rear wheel drive, even some all wheel drive cars, you really have to have a sense for how the power kicks on the power band, what the rear is doing, because you're basically always going to slide when you're trying to be on that limit. Yeah.
And the last thing I want to touch on this topic is that there's also an application for this in endurance racing, right? The most obvious one would be if you're trying to make fuel last for a 2-hour stint, then taking the higher gear and coasting in and really focusing on the line, maybe using, we always kind of talk about this trade-off, right? Do you want to use more tire? Or do you want to use more gas? Right? Some cars are going to be tire limited, some cars are going to be gas limited. So for example, the TT I find is actually typically, like right now, it was gas limited for the longest time. So like we actually try to use more tire in some corners. And what that meant is like a little bit less brake, scrub some speed with the tires, especially like GP, you could really do that quite well. And then the other thing was, for me, let's say like the first race this year at Shannonville, I really needed, you know, dropping the car into a lower gear just to get it turned. Back hairpin in the wet. The car just did, like, it was stiff and it just did not want to turn at all. And so it wasn't even, you drop a gear and you get the car turned and you're not even applying the throttle. It's just like once the car's turned, you shift up and then you try to exit, because like if you're like in second gear and the TT is just gonna spin anyway, right? So that was like literally dropping a gear to get the car turned and then short shifting up and trying to get out, and that was a crucial mechanical like strategy to get the car to turn, right? That becomes extremely apparent in the wet for front wheel drive. Yeah. So that's kind of what I want to say about that topic. You have anything else you want to mention about gear selection?
No, I would just say like try different things, not in a full send time attack setting. Like try to work on those skills, and you know, again, like I said, try different things, see how it feels, and obviously if you have some way of tracking or the data or the time through a corner, like with some sort of, you know, Garmin or, you know, Aim Solo DL2 or something like that, to really verify, like, because what feels faster might not necessarily be faster, and what feels slow might actually be quicker. So work on those skills. Keep it in a one gear, you know, when you're learning. Once you feel like you've optimized and you're hitting your apexes and you know, you're hitting your braking zones, you feel like you're carrying some good speed, then develop those skills further as well, because at the end of the day, it's just about constant improvement, right? And I think heel toe and downshifting with like auto rev match and DCT trans and all these things, I think is a dying skill. That we, myself included, need to continue to keep sharp. You want to keep sharp to keep driving those manual cars. Anyway, okay. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up? No, that's it, man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Take care.